Yes, I'm here to talk a lot about the courthouse. We do need a new courthouse. The history of the courthouse, the history of Will County, even the history of the state of Illinois as it regards judicial facilities has some relevancy here. So you know there are 102 counties in the state of Illinois. There are 24 judicial circuits. So obviously many circuits, most circuits in the state of Illinois have more than one county within their circuit. There's only 6 circuits that are comprised of just one county. Will County is one of them. So it's Kane, DuPage, Lake, Henry, Cook. We have, and that's because of the population and geography. As you get more population, you become a smaller circuit. For those of you who might remember the 60s and 70s, we were a circuit with Iroquois County and Kankakee County. Back in the late 70s and the early 80s, we got big enough, Will County did, where we split off into our own circuit, which is the 12th Judicial Circuit. Back in 1969, when the current courthouse opened, Will County had a population of about 175,000 people. As of the year 2000, we hit 500,000 people, and as of 2010, it was 675,000 people. And we're probably somewhere close to 700,000 people right now. When the original courthouse opened in I shouldn't say original, it's really our third courthouse, opened in 1969, it was built 4 floors. The top 2 floors were the court facilities. We had 8 courtrooms on the 4th floor. We had 4 courtrooms on the 3rd floor, and the circuit clerk's office was on the other side of that 3rd floor. So we had 12 courtrooms. At the time in 1969, we had 7 judges. So the county at that point felt, of course, that they had plenty of room for growth. They had 5 extra courtrooms. I was 16 years old in 1972 when I first went into the new courthouse as an election worker. I was trained by the county clerk's office at that time, Claire Hartley Woodard, to go out and fix all those old voting machines that you remember that it hit them and they'd break down all the time, and I had to go out there and fix them. I did that during the day, during primary and general elections, and at night I'd come back and I'd be a runner essentially, going back and forth between the safes in the courthouse and the machines, because they needed to protect those ballots. Everything was done by paper, of course. But 1972, that was just 3 years after the courthouse opened, and I remember every county office was in that courthouse. Recorder's office, treasurer's office, auditor's office, everybody was in there. Even the county boardroom was on the 1st floor of that courthouse. It didn't take long before everybody realized what a great place Will County and Joliet was, and they all moved here. And because of that, we grew. And judges, the number of judges the circuit has is determined by population. It's a relatively basic formula, especially for associate judges. For every 35,000 new population from one census to the next, you have a right to 1 more associate judge. And also it's up to the Supreme Court to determine whether or not, again, by population, we need more circuit judges. Most of you may know, but just briefly, we have 16 circuit judges and we have 19 associate judges in Will County. All circuit judges are elected by the people, the residents of the circuit that you're in this case, Will County. The 19 associate judges are appointed by a majority vote of those elected circuit judges. The circuit judges are retained every 6 years on the ballot by the people, and the associate judges are retained every 4 years by a majority vote of the 16 circuit judges. So that's how it happens. And we grew very fast in the 70s and 80s, even the 90s, and then by the time 2000 hit, we really hit over 500,000 people, and we needed more judges. We had more circuit judges, we needed more associate judges, but the bottom line is we grew very fast, and to the point that the facilities that were built for us in 1969 just could not handle all the files that we had coming in. To the point now that we're virtually the size of Lake. Lake is right around 700,000 people, Lake County, Illinois. And They predict, the experts tell us anyway, that in the next 25 to 30 years that we will be the second largest county in the state, only Cook being larger. Whether you think of it as an advantage or a disadvantage, the fact is Will County geographically is such a big county, and we have so much room here to grow. DuPage is basically built out, even Kane is basically built out. Nobody's going to grow as fast as we're going to grow. When the economy truly does a turnaround and people start building homes and start moving again, Will County is going to grow quicker, faster, first. So that's what we have to plan for. So it's not just today, it's for 25 and 30 years from now. So the courthouse now has, remember I said it was built for 12 courtrooms. The courthouse now has 22 courtrooms in it. Plus, that's not enough, so we have 6 courtrooms across the street, kitty corner, in the old EMCO building. We call it the Courthouse Annex. We have 6 courtrooms over there. And we're trying our best to try to find room to put judges so that they can hear cases that the citizens of Will County need to have heard. We are, by a ratio of judges per file, we are always the busiest or the second busiest circuit in the state of Illinois, always. But we don't complain about that, but what's the problem that we have to address every day are people, citizens, good people. If you have not been in that courthouse, you know somebody who has, a relative or a friend, who comes in to have their cases heard, and too often they're told by the judge, we can't get to you today because we have other things that we have to do, or we already have an ongoing trial pending, and you'll have to get another date. You hear that all the time. It's not something judges like to tell the litigants that are in front of them. They just don't. It's more costly for the litigants. They have to take off more time from work, costs more in attorney's fees, and their time. People who come into the courthouse, it's very emotional, especially the family in the criminal courts, and it just makes sense to try to resolve these cases as quickly as we can, as economically as we can, and as fairly and impartially as we can. And right now, that's all a problem, because that courthouse is unsafe, it is not secure, and we don't have enough courtrooms. I told you that we're very similar in size to Lake County. I think it's only a few thousand apart in population. They have 38 judges. We should have 38 judges. We statutorily have a right to 38 judges. But we can't get the other 3 judges that we need because we have no place to put them. We have no courtrooms, no chambers to them to preside over files. And if you think about it, 35 judges, even 3 judges, that's 9 or 10% of the entire judgeships that we have in Will County. That could handle a lot more files. So it's something that we've needed to work on. We've been working on it for quite a while. I know I've been out there very aggressively pushing a courthouse, and I'll discuss some more of that in a moment, but I'm simply building on the work that's been done with the 2 prior chief judges before me. Chief Jerry Kinney and Chief Judge Steve White have all worked to get a courthouse over the last 10 years, and now it's been my turn for the last couple of years. As a matter of fact, Steve White is here today. He's now a private lawyer, he's retired, and I hate him for it, but it is nice of him to show up. In any event, we are working hard for a courthouse. When I first became chief in December of 2012, I knew I needed to do this. It had to be done, and I broke this down into 3 phases in working towards a new courthouse. And that's, first was need, second was priority, third is funding. And we couldn't get to one phase until we completed the previous phase, and I knew that. And I knew that I needed to work a lot with the county executive's office and the county board. Very, very important. And the interesting thing was, when I became chief judge, that in the election that had just happened in 2012, out of the 26 board members that there are, I think something like 10 or 11 were brand new board members. Is that right? 10 or 11. And I knew a lot of the board members, if not all of them, back in 2002 when I ran for election, but at my end of town, you start losing track of that sort of thing. And when I became chief judge, I realized I didn't know that many of the county board members, and certainly none of the new ones. So I knew that it was imperative for me to meet these county board members, establish relationships with them, I'm leaving out the county executive because Larry and I go back a long way, and I've known Larry forever anyway. So, but I also did not know how I would be perceived by them. I sort of predicted that when I came and said, I want a new courthouse, we've got to have a new courthouse. Here's all the reasons why we need a new courthouse: the safety issues, security issues, custody issues, not enough judge issues, personnel issues. And I can go through all that, but we'd be here until very late today, and I don't want to do that. I want to move on to some other things that I think that you might find interesting. But the fact remains is I went to the county board and I went to the county executive's office not really knowing what to expect. Quite frankly, with the scope of the project that I was talking about, I was worried that they might be adversaries to what I needed to have done. I can tell you they were not my adversaries. They almost immediately became partners in what we're trying to do. They understood. They came over. The ones who hadn't seen the courthouse came over and looked at the courthouse. They understood the need, and we began in meetings almost immediately. It was very, very encouraging for me to talk to the other two branches of county government, the two branches that have the final say-so on what happens with the judiciary. And by the way, you should also know that it's the county that's required, in the state of Illinois anyway, to provide what the statute says are adequate facilities for the judiciary. In other states, it's the state's obligation, but in Illinois, it's the county's obligation to provide staff and facilities. So that's why we're doing this all at the county level, if you're wondering why isn't the state involved with this. But three branches of county government, we've been working on this now since the beginning of last year. I think my first meeting with Executive Walsh was probably in January of 2013. We met at McGrody's with Chief of Staff Nick Palmer, and former Finance Director, that was his title, Paul Rayfeld. And I remember that meeting very well. And from the get-go, I was very encouraged by what I was hearing. It did not take much. Everybody I've talked to understands the need for a new courthouse. And I, quite frankly, at least as far as what they've told me to my face, unanimously, everybody says you need a new courthouse. Whether it be labor, business, the legal community, or county government, everybody agrees. The next issue is priority, and I understand very much that the county board and the county executive's office, they have a lot of balls in the air in terms of projects that need to be worked on, need to be done. I'm just speaking for my side of town in the south end of Joliet there. But I do believe strongly, for all the reasons that are similar to those of need, that we are also a priority for the county to get this done. We have over 750,000 people that go through that courthouse every day. I have statistics here, I have articles here that I could read to you about the number of violent episodes that occur in courthouse, the number of knives, box cutters, corkscrews, guns that are taken from people at courthouses. And our people are great at the courthouse. The deputies, the bailiffs, they are terrific. And that is why an incident hasn't happened at the courthouse. But it's not because of that building. And that building is going to have to change dramatically, or what we do with space, or something might happen. And we're all being very proactive, all branches of county government, to try to be sure that nothing does happen in Joliet or Will County court facilities. Again, I go back to things that are very emotional. It's very, very hard sometimes for litigants, and we need to protect not only them, but the staff and the people who work in these courthouses. All right, so priority moved right along as well. And a lot of the credit I give to those who are here, a couple, Larry Walsh, as I mentioned before, county executive, is here, also the county board. And I would like to call out one in particular. She was the chairperson of the Capital Improvement Committee, a very important committee to what I need to have done. When she got involved with me, I sat down with her, and she agreed to meet with me. We sat for a long time. I think our first meeting was over the Red Goose. And we talked for a while about what needed to be done. She said she would look at it, and she did. and she almost right away understood again what we needed to have done, and she thought that it was such an important project that this was not something that just should be on a regular agenda item on a regular committee meeting, that she thought it was important enough to help form what she called the ad hoc committee solely for the purpose of building the courthouse. And nobody has rolled up their sleeves more than she has to try to get this done, and to work as hard as she's worked to get this done. And she is here today, and I would like to introduce Denise Winfrey, also from the county board. So she's here. Hopefully you're all on board. As business people, you understand not only the need and the priority for the project, but that we need to get something done so that we can get some jobs out there, we get businesses going, and to be and continue to be successful. And obviously labor, of course, would be a nice shot in the arm for them if they get this project going. It's all very important, but I'm ahead of myself just a little bit. But we've been meeting since last summer in this ad hoc committee, and we've moved things along much more quickly than I would have envisioned, that I actually had thought about or planned for, and that's due because of the other two branches of the county government that I can't say enough about, and obviously I have already. But we have gotten to the point now that we have gone through the selection process, and we have selected a firm that will do the programming and planning of a new courthouse. That is a big commitment for the county. It's a big commitment financially, time-wise. They're going to start the next, I'm guessing, month or two. It'll take probably a process of maybe 6 or 9 months, where they will plan every inch of what's necessary for the courthouse. The courtrooms, the mediation rooms, conference rooms, chambers, everything will be planned and then designed. And that design then will come back to us and we'll look it over. We had 6 very competent design teams, any of which could have done the work, but we picked a very good design team, White Company, and they have a bit of an advantage only in the sense that, from my perspective, they already have a good idea of the big picture. They did a study for the county board about 4 years ago that gave us the general, the size of the project, how big it would be, square footage and so forth, how many courtrooms we're going to need over time. But now it's time to plan the very specifics of what it's going to look like. So quite frankly, if I would be back at a group like this a year from now, I would hope to have maybe graphs, charts, maybe even design to show you, because I think that'll be done by them. At least that's the plan. And the last issue that I want to spend some time on is funding. Obviously, the courthouse needs to be paid for. We do not have it funded yet, and we need to work on it. And we are working on that. And I can give you some of the ideas that are already starting to come to fruition, hopefully that they will. But before we can, as part of the discussion as to funding, we also need to discuss where the courthouse is going to go, which I know is very important to a lot of you here. It's my strong opinion, and I think the opinion of most in county government, that this courthouse should stay in downtown Joliet. It just makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. First, we have the space down there, which is not always true for a downtown sort of facility, but you've probably all heard that the county is in the process of buying the First Midwest Bank building. You know that it borders Ottawa and Jefferson and Washington and Joliet streets, plus some land to the south of Washington Street up to the tracks. And that would be a great place to put a courthouse. And the reason is that, one of the many reasons are that we have buildings already in place there. We have additional courthouse offices. For instance, the public defender's office and the probation department, they both deal with the same clients. You have the predisposition defendants who are represented by public defenders, and then if they're given probation, they have probation officers. But if you put them in the same building, that might make some sense, and that would be right across the street from the courthouse. The state attorney's office is also starting to to grow large enough where they're going to need more space. And they're in the MCO annex along with the 6 courtrooms. It may not be the best idea in the world to have 6 courtrooms right where you have a lot of state attorney's offices. And I like that for a lot of reasons, including you might have somebody undercover coming in the state attorney's office, walking right by somebody who's going to a courtroom, and there might be some recognition there. That's just not a good idea. And they do everything that they need to do right now to protect that from happening, but it's still something that we don't want to have occur. In any event, we can move those 6 courtrooms and those 22 courtrooms we have in the courthouse into a new building, and then the MCO building can then be completely the state attorney's office. So we have those 2 buildings that are already there. You don't have to build a building, you don't have to buy a building, you don't have to lease a building. So it just seems to make sense. Plus, the city of Joliet has independently considered plans for the south end of downtown Joliet, sort of a transportation government center. And I think that the courthouse would be a key anchor to everything that they're trying to do, which makes, again, a lot of sense. You're going to have transportation right there, the train station's right there, the bus station will be right there. And I do believe strongly, for that reason as well, that it should go there. And I have met with, and I know others in county government have met with Mayor Durante, who I'd also like to introduce that is here today as well. And Tom, thank you very much for coming. But the mayor is here, and I've talked to him and the other 7 current council members, and they have all expressed a great desire to help us ensure that the courthouse stays in downtown Joliet. Now, as much as we say, as I say, I want it in downtown Joliet, and that's very true, I can't ever say it's 100% because we are county government. We are not city government, so we have to at least consider all our options, wherever that might be. Is what I tell people is if we look at a green grass site somewhere in Joliet or not in Joliet, and it's going to be, we can do something, say, so much cheaper somewhere else than we can in Joliet, and maybe we can afford that and not here, then it's kind of that's sort of a black and white answer for me. But I hope it doesn't get to that, because I'm sure that it will happen, so hopefully that it'll occur in Joliet and downtown. And I keep hesitating, I say hopefully, because we're not the experts. Nobody here knows really what needs to be done until the experts do tell us what needs to be done. That Whiten Company, when they finish their study, along with planning and programming, they're going to give us a design, and they're going to give us an estimate as to cost. And that's very, very important to what we do, and we can't really go out and identify and establish funding revenue streams until we get that number. So we're waiting on that. But I can tell you this, that we are doing everything that we can to move this project forward. By we, I mean all branches of county government. I believe, even though I mentioned earlier that the county has an obligation to provide adequate facilities for the judiciary, and they are, but I also believe that the judiciary, as a third, separate, and equal branch of government, that we have some responsibility to help where we can, to be creative in trying to come up with funding. And in that regard, we have now downstate in Springfield, we have some legislation that I'm very much hoping will pass, that will allow the county board to take some additional fees from court filings, from court fees, from filing fees, from fines, from the people that go into the courthouse to help fund the new courthouse. I'm not talking about a lot of money, although I'm talking about somewhere between $10 and $30 per filing. And I know that doesn't sound like much, but we have 100,000 cases a year or more filed in Will County. So my math would tell me that if even $20 would mean $2 million that would go towards a new courthouse per year, although in terms of what we're going to need, that may be a small sum, it's certainly a significant sum of money. So, and I'm very glad that he's here today, and I can introduce him as well. But the state representative stood up for me and for the county, and and said, yes, we need to do this, and has filed this bill on our behalf, is here today too, and that's State Representative Larry Walsh Jr. So, Larry, thank you very much. He's working very hard to get this thing passed, and so if any of you know, relatives of, friends of state representatives, state senators, please, I would ask for your support and letting them know that you'd like them to support this bill. Hopefully we can get that passed even this session. So, again, as to funding all around, though, we do need to find out how much this building is going to cost. I've heard numbers anywhere from $100 to $250 million. But you know what? I don't want anybody to fixate on an amount at this point in time, because the courthouse that we needs not only be planned for today, it needs to be planned for the future, which maybe they thought they were doing back in the 1960s for the current courthouse, but it didn't really happen that way. And we have to be sure that we do plan ahead. When this population of this county starts to grow again, it will get to the point that we're going to need, by these experts, probably 50 or 55 judges in 25 or 30 years. That's a lot more judges, a lot more space that's necessary. And I really don't know. There's basically three methods that you can build a building now, and you can build a building with extra floors right now and just shell them out, or you could build a building where you can build more on top, or you can build a building where you go sideways and just make it look now that when you build it later, it all belong. And I think we were given all three options when we had these 6 design firms present to us. And I'm not really sure what we're going to end up with down the road, and that's maybe a function of cost and funding too. Sure, I would like to have everything done possible right now and get it done right, because I believe this county executive and county government and county board will get it right, then leave it for somebody 20 or 30 years from now. But again, that may depend on a function of what's available for funding. So, and I don't think it's going to be just one revenue stream that's going to be used. It's going to be, we'll cobble together as much as we can, but we do need to figure out ways to get it paid for. And that's going to be the tougher issue. We all know that. We're not putting it off. We're discussing it, but it's something that has to be resolved before we move forward on to the next step. But it is very important for everybody in this room, for labor, for business, and for the legal community to get this done. If you've ever been to the judicial facilities in Kane County or Kendall County or Lake County or McHenry County, they have all, within the last number of years, built new judicial facilities or expansion of current judicial facilities. And I think our citizens deserve the same thing. What I'd like to do now is, I know I've been talking for a while, and Jeff just threw up his 5 minutes on me, but does anybody have any questions? Well, somebody had a question about Chicago Street going all the way through. And I did want to address that for the moment. It does need to go all the way through. Joliet wants it to go all the way through. I don't think anybody in the county really disagrees with that. There are some issues that need to be addressed before that can happen, although I think those issues can be addressed relatively quickly. We have a problem is that we have the parking lot there, and if you put Chicago Street all the way through, right where Chicago Street would go all the way through, there are 6 handicap spots. Well, by law, we have to have 6 handicap spots because of the number of parking we have in addition to that. And those spots by law have to be the closest possible to the ramp that's ADA compliant for the courthouse. Well, out of the 4 doors to the courthouse, the only ADA compliant ramp is that northeast door, which is right there where those 6 spots are. So if you eliminate those spots, you got to put them somewhere else, which means you got to have another ADA compliant ramp, which means that you have to somehow redo probably the southeast ramp to make that ADA compliant. And that's not just a little work, that's probably a lot of work, and we're working on that as well. But we have those issues that have to be resolved, and then the county government, I know, is working with the city government as to their intergovernmental agreement. And for those of you who asked me that question today, I don't know whether or not anybody else wants to answer that question too, who's here, but I think that we're working towards that. Anyway, thank you all very much for your time, and I hope you all will support the courthouse when the time comes for you to be able to provide support, whether it be to call legislator or whoever it's going to be. So whatever we're asking you to do, thank you all very much for help. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jerry. Just a couple of quick things, and we'll get out of here. On behalf of the Chamber, we do have a drive down to Springfield that's going to be May 13th. Anyone that's interested, please contact Mary or anyone else at the Chamber. We've got quite a group going down this year. I think we're going to be in the Governor's Mansion, I believe, that night for dinner. So that's May 13th. And then we have a business after hours, that's on the 24th. That's at BMO downtown Joliet. So if you haven't been to one of those networking business after hours lately, John, I think you'd enjoy it. We have free beverages, free food, and good company. Especially this one is going to be very well attended. And then I don't want you to forget about our the hottest event in Joliet, which is New Orleans North, and that's going to be downtown Joliet. That's on June 13th. That's Friday the 13th. Easy date to remember. That's this year, and that's going to be from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. It's our third annual. We've had a lot of fun with that. We expect 5,000 people downtown Joliet. It's been a good fundraiser for United Way, so I would encourage you to mark that on your calendar. And last but not least, the Chamber is celebrating 100 years. Their 100-year celebration this whole year. And I don't know about you guys, but that's a huge ordeal. And the week of September 15th, that whole week, we're going to celebrate the 100 years. And there'll be more to come, but on that Saturday night of that week, there's going to be a gala that Saturday night that we'll announce that later, but mark that on your calendars for that week in September, because that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have several different events that week, the week of September 15th. So that's about it. Thanks a lot, you guys, for coming, and we'll see you at the next event.